Imagine you wake up in ancient Egypt. The sun is already above you. The air feels solid. Your tongue is dry. Your skin is wet. Your head is starting to pulse. There is no fan. There is no ice. There is no fridge. There is no cold water. There is only heat, sand, sweat, and work. Now imagine someone points toward a field, or a quarry, or a half-built monument rising under the white sky, and they say one simple thing: start. What would you do? The easy answer is that you would be tough. You would endure it. You would push through. That answer would get you killed, because the sun does not care about courage. Heat does not care about pride. Your body has rules. Break them for long enough, and your brain begins to fail. First, you slow down. Then you stop thinking clearly. Then you stop noticing danger. Then you fall. This is the hidden problem behind ancient Egypt. Not gold, not kings, not pyramids. The real miracle was keeping human bodies alive in a land that could cook them for thousands of years. Millions of people lived beside the Nile. They farmed. They built. They carried stone. They made bricks. They cut tombs. They worked under one of the most dangerous suns on Earth. And they did it without electricity, without machines, without modern medicine. So the question is not how Egypt built the pyramids. The deeper question is how Egypt kept the builders alive. The false answer is toughness. The real answer is much stranger. Ancient Egypt was a survival machine. Every wall, every cup, every cloth, every meal, every hour of the day. It was part of a system designed around one enemy, the heat. But before we enter that system, we need to understand the weapon Egypt used better than almost anyone else: the human body. You are not built like most animals. You do not have thick fur. You do not pant like a dog. You do not flap giant ears like an elephant. You do not hide in mud like a pig. You sweat. That sounds simple, but in the story of human evolution, sweat is a superpower. Ancient humans survived by walking, tracking, hunting, enduring. We could move under the sun longer than many animals could, not because we were stronger, but because we could leak water through our skin. When sweat evaporates, it pulls heat away. That is your natural cooling system. That is your inner river. But there is a trap. Sweat costs water, and in Egypt, water was life. Lose too much water, and your body changes. Your blood thickens. Your heart works harder. Your thoughts slow. Your hands shake. Your muscles cramp. You make bad choices, then worse choices, then no choices at all. And sweat does not only remove water, it removes salt. Salt keeps your nerves firing. Salt helps your muscles obey. Salt keeps the body's signals moving. Drink water without replacing salt, and you can still collapse. So ancient Egypt had to solve 3 survival problems: lower the heat, replace the water, replace the salt. Everything else was just a tool. The first tool was the house. A modern person sees a mud brick wall and thinks primitive. That is the false answer. The deeper reveal is that mud brick was technology. It was slow technology, quiet technology, evolutionary technology. Mud from the Nile was mixed with straw, then shaped, then dried by the sun. The same sun that threatened human life helped create the walls that protected it. Thick mud brick does not simply stop heat. It delays heat. The sun beats on the outside wall all day, but the heat moves through slowly, hour by hour. By the time the worst afternoon heat reaches the inside, night is already coming. Then, the night cools the wall, and that coolness arrives inside when the next day begins. The house becomes a time trap for temperature. It steals coolness from night and spends it during noon. No wire, no switch, no engine, just mud, straw, and attention. This is how ancient humans survived before machines. They did not overpower nature. They used its rhythm. The Egyptians learned that shade was not comfort. Shade was medicine. Streets were often narrow. Buildings shaded other buildings. Windows were small. Openings were placed high. Hot air rises, so let it leave from above. White walls reflected the sun. Flat roofs became bedrooms. At night, people climbed upward. They slept where air could move. They slept under a sky empty of clouds. They used the roof as the coolest room in the house. To us, that sounds poor. To them, it was smart. The false answer is that ancient homes were simple. The deeper reveal is that they were climate machines. Then came the wind. Egypt had a gift. The north wind, steady, predictable, useful. Ancient builders understood something every animal understands. Still air is danger. Moving air saves energy. A breeze helps sweat evaporate. A breeze pulls heat from skin. So Egyptians shaped buildings to catch wind. Some homes used roof vents, wind scoops. Openings pointed toward the moving air. The wind entered above, then dropped into the rooms below. Hot air escaped. Cooler air replaced it. The house began to breathe, not like a machine, like an organism. And then came the clay jar. This is where the ancient mind becomes beautiful. Place a porous water jar in moving air. Water slowly seeps through the clay. It reaches the outer surface. Then it evaporates. Evaporation steals heat. The air passing by becomes cooler. That is the same basic idea behind an evaporative cooler. But the ancient version needed no factory, no plug, no fuel, just clay, water, wind, and patience. This was not magic. It was survival knowledge. The kind humans gather when mistakes are punished by death. But the body still had to step outside. So the next defense was clothing. Modern instinct says wear less. Take it all off. Let the body breathe. In desert heat, that answer can be deadly. Bare skin drinks sunlight. Bare skin burns. Bare skin loses water faster. Ancient Egyptians used linen. Linen came from flax. It was light, breathable, fast drying. It pulled sweat across the fabric. It allowed evaporation. It created a moving layer between skin and sun. Loose cloth was portable shade. White cloth reflected light. The poor wore simple linen. The rich wore finer linen. But the survival principle was the same. Cover the body. Do not trap the heat. Block the sun. Let sweat work. This is not fashion first. It is biology first. The body wants to cool itself. The cloth helps it. Then there was hair. Hair can protect, but it can also trap heat. It can carry lice. It can hold sweat. Many Egyptians shaved their heads. Some wore wigs. That seems strange. Until you see the deeper function. A shaved head is easier to wash, easier to cool, easier to inspect. A wig can be removed. Natural hair cannot. The body became adjustable. Cover when needed. Uncover when needed. Cool when possible. Clean when necessary. Ancient survival was not one big invention. It was hundreds of small choices. Now we reach the most surprising part. Beer. If you are dying in the heat, beer sounds like the wrong answer. That is the false answer. The deeper reveal is that ancient Egyptian beer was not modern party beer. It was food. Fluid, calories, grain, yeast, safety. The Nile gave life. But the Nile was not clean in the modern sense. It carried mud, waste, parasites, rot, animal filth, human filth. Raw water could make you sick. Sick workers die faster in heat. So Egyptians drank beer on a massive scale. It was usually low in alcohol, thick, nutritive, sometimes almost like liquid bread. The brewing process made it safer than raw river water. The grain gave calories. The yeast gave nutrients. The liquid replaced sweat. Beer was not just pleasure. It was infrastructure. Workers were paid in bread and beer. A ration was not a treat. It was part of the survival system. Cut the ration, and you did not just create hunger. You created danger. A man swinging tools in Egyptian heat needs fluid. He needs calories. He needs salt. He needs the body to keep firing. And that brings us to bread. Ancient bread was rough, dense, gritty. It wore down teeth, but it kept people alive. Bread gave energy. Salted fish added sodium. Dates and figs gave sugar. Onions and garlic added flavor and nutrition. Preserved foods carried minerals. No one was saying electrolyte balance. No one had modern chemistry. But generation by generation, the pattern held. People who ate the right foods lasted longer. Workers who were fed properly kept moving. Families who understood the heat survived another season. This is how ancient knowledge grows. Not from textbooks, from repetition, from dead mistakes, from parents teaching children what not to ignore. Drink before you feel ruined. Eat salt. Stay shaded. Cover your skin. Work early. Rest when the sun is highest. Sleep where the air moves. Do that, or suffer. Now we must talk about the workday, because the simplest survival strategy is also the most forgotten. Do not fight noon. Noon is not just a time. In ancient Egypt, noon was a predator. It attacked judgment. It attacked balance. It attacked the water inside the body. So the day bent around it. Work began early, before the sun became cruel. Heavy labor happened in cooler hours. The worst heat was for shade, food, rest, repair. Then work could continue later. Modern people often imagine ancient labor as endless suffering. That is partly true. Life was hard. Class mattered. Some bodies were used more brutally than others, but Egyptians also understood limits. A dead worker moves no stone. A collapsed farmer grows no grain. A sick craftsman cuts no tomb. Survival required rhythm. The sun ruled the clock. The river ruled the year. During the Nile flood, fields were underwater. Farm work paused. Labor could shift. Stone could move by boat more easily. Even the calendar became part of the cooling system. The civilization did not exist against the environment. It pulsed with it. And still, people failed. Heat killed. Disease killed. Work injured bodies. The ancient world was not gentle. Doctors used herbs. Honey, oils, bandages, prayers, spells. Some remedies worked. Some did not. But the attempt matters. Ancient Egyptians watched the body. They named symptoms. They treated burns, fevers, headaches, wounds. They did not separate medicine, magic, and survival the way we do. They used everything available because survival does not wait for perfect science. Now comes the twist. The desert was not only Egypt's enemy, it was also its shield. The Egyptians lived in the Black Land, the fertile strip along the Nile. Beyond it was the Red Land, dry, hard, lethal. To a farmer, the desert was danger. To an invading army, it was a wall. You cannot march thousands of men across endless, waterless sand without paying for it in bodies. You cannot easily feed horses, move supplies, protect lines. The desert guarded Egypt. It made invasion harder. It helped preserve identity. It helped Egypt remain recognizable across astonishing spans of time. And the same dryness that threatened life preserved death. Papyrus survived. Linen survived. Wood survived. Bodies survived. The desert slowed decay. The hot, dry sand taught Egyptians something terrifying. Bodies could last. The dead could remain. Mummification grew from that observation. Heat and dryness became part of religion. The enemy became a tool. The desert protected the border, preserved the archive, dried the dead, and helped turn our river culture into an immortal civilization. So the answer keeps changing. How did Egyptians survive the heat? At first you think the answer is endurance. Then you think it is architecture, then clothing, then beer, then salt, then scheduling, then medicine, then geography. But the deeper answer is adaptation. The ancient Egyptian did not stand alone against the sun. They stood inside a system built by thousands of years of human attention. A mudbrick room holding night inside its walls, a wind scoop pulling breath into the home, a clay jar sweating in the breeze, a linen cloth floating over skin, a shaved head cooling fast, a ration of beer and bread, a salted fish, a date, a shaded alley, a roof under the stars, a workday that bowed before noon. None of this needed electricity. None of this needed plastic. None of this needed a machine humming in a window. It needed memory, human memory, tribal memory, civilizational memory. The same kind of memory our ancestors used long before cities. Watch the animal, follow the water, avoid the exposed ridge, move at dawn, rest in heat, share the warning, teach the child, survive. Modern life makes heat feel like an inconvenience. Press a button, cool the room, open the fridge, add ice. But remove those things and the old rules return instantly. Your body is still ancient. Your sweat glands are still ancient. Your thirst is still ancient. Your danger point is still ancient. The Egyptian worker in 1350 BCE was not a different creature. He was you, with less technology and more environmental wisdom. He knew where shade would fall. He knew when walls stayed cool. He knew which wind mattered. He knew what to drink. He knew why noon was not the hour to prove bravery. That is the uncomfortable part. Ancient Egypt did not survive the heat because humans were tougher then. They survived because they paid closer attention. They built with the sun in mind. They dressed with the body in mind. They ate and drank with labor in mind. They planned time around danger. They respected the limit. And that may be the oldest survival lesson of all. Nature does not reward pride. It rewards adjustment. So now imagine it again. You wake in Thebes. The heat is rising. The air is dry. The sun is waiting. There is no ice, no fan, no fridge, no escape. But there is mudbrick around you, linen beside you, beer in a jar, salt in your food, wind from the north, shade in the alley, and a roof where the night still lives. Could you survive? Maybe. but only if you stopped trying to conquer the heat and started listening to it.